It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, ends up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan. Streaming online at 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Also available on our podcast feed, available at 1069thefan.com and on the mobile app. And pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. Working on uploading the first hour where we gave our recap of Utah State's win over Fresno State. Also thoughts on other games that happened in the Mountain West last night and games that are happening. One game is going to be happening today with New Mexico at Grand Canyon. Second hour reserved for a little bit more NBA talk. We kind of rehashing a topic we did go over yesterday a little bit, but we'll also talk about some conference realignment and expansion, or more conference scheduling and more details on expansion. So
that's what we're all about here.
That's what we're all about.
That is the theme
here.
of the show.
Conference realignment and expansion show. Although 5338 saying more NBA talk, I accuse the Full Court Press of tanking. So
short on topic ideas.
Yeah, well, we should have
talk about the tank.
Yeah, well, I mean, really, what we should have done, Eric, because we should have just not shown up and just done Fox Sports programming. that is the way to truly tank.
Throwing in the towel.
That's the honorable way to tank. Not like show up for part of the show and then like just
leave the mics off.
Yeah, leave the mics off. Even to morally tank, we need to just not show up at all. So yeah, the NBA world has decided that they wanted to get on a heater about the Jazz.
Yeah,
where
the NBA sports media has collectively lost its mind over what Utah did in 2 games. It's like this. There's been this stuff. I'll just call it stuff in the NBA for 20 years or more. Is it reaching historic levels now? Maybe. But this is not a new thing. Like, why are we suddenly collectively losing our minds? And any talking head in the NBA, any expert analyst, is running to any camera and microphone he can to disparage what's going on with the Utah Jazz and tanking generally in the NBA.
Yeah, and the thing that really is starting to get me is that you have, again, these talking heads and keyboard warriors online that are saying this is, it's despicable what the Jazz are doing. Even Draymond Green's trying to get in on it as if his own Warriors team didn't actively tank, I'm pretty sure, while he was there, so that they could protect a pick that ended up turning into Harrison Barnes. I know not the most spectacular pick for them, but he was part of that death lineup they had back when they were running championships before Kevin Durant. So, fun on him to say that about a rebuilding team. But they all want to say, well, this is, the Jazz are doing something that's, worse than what's typically done. And the thing that nobody is actually bothering to explain is why it's worse. And I saw Dan Clayton going back with another guy on Twitter, and Dan, basically said my thoughts almost better than I could. Although I did try to chime in on the argument, but basically saying, look, why is what the Jazz is doing? Well, why is what they're doing worse than the, just hold the guys out? And like, you look at the injury reports that are coming out today, the Pacers, it's like 12 guys long. The Wizards, basically the same thing. They're just
the Kings, the same
Kings,
thing.
They're just holding all of their guys out, but everyone's losing their mind over the Jazz. And Dan was going back and forth, like, just saying, okay, why is it worse? And this guy was saying, it's worse. It's just worse. Like you can't do that. You just can't do that. And can't you see that there is an argument for it to be worse? Like, can't you understand that point? Never actually explained why it is worse to sit and throw a game before it starts versus when the fourth quarter starts. Everyone will it's one of those things that everyone just tries to accept as true, but they can't articulate why it's bad. And that's the sign of somebody who doesn't actually have a good reason for what they believe. If you can't articulate why you believe something, then you're just believing it because you want to believe it. People are saying what the Jazz are doing is bad. Worse, I should say, because a lot of these people will at least condemn some of the other tanking, but they think that it's worse. And none of them can explain why it's worse. When you actually walk up to them and say, why is it worse than what the Jazz are doing? They just say, because it is.
There's bad, and then there's apparently more bad.
Yeah.
Because, we're Utah is spitting in the face of NBA integrity as if it has any.
Yeah, as these people, they say, I think it was Bobby Marks or something like that. I think one of the Nets or current or former Nets is like assistant GM, like, they're ruining the integrity of the league, he said, as the news ticker underneath lists off all the gambling spreads and the commercial that led, the commercials that lead into that break. Today's segment brought to you by ESPN Bet and DraftKings.
Exactly.
Sure, the Jazz are what's ruining the integrity of the league.
It's as if everybody knows the way to tank is to put players inactive on your roster.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that's morally acceptable to lose the game before it's even played. And they'll do it under the guise of, well, we got guys who are hurt, or we're trying to give our young guys opportunities. We're trying to develop young guys, and the best way to do that is by playing games. Whether we win or not, that's ancillary, I guess. And that's been the this is air quotes, morally acceptable way of tanking in the NBA. And Utah, last week, decides to throw a little bit of a wrinkle in it. We just traded for an all-star. We just traded for a guy who was a defensive player of the year. And we're going to pair him with our own all-star. And we want to see how they look. They look really good. Let's show the fans what the potential of this roster is going to look like. Let's show our team, our own players, our vision of the future. That looks pretty good. But let's not lose sight of this year's goal, and that is to protect our top 8 protected pick. And that's where the dissonance is happening, is that everybody has suddenly lost sight of Utah has a top 8 protected pick, and they want to get that pick the best way that they can. And the way to do that is to not stumble into wins. So you got 3/4 of senior stars and senior guys playing what the future looks like, but they're trying to do both. They're also trying to develop their young guys and give them a chance to have a good run in important games. But apparently that's not morally acceptable anymore in the NBA. The problem really is not just what Utah has done here recently in its 2 most recent games. It's just that there are 8 or 9 or 10 teams that are trying to race to the bottom. There's always been a couple of teams that are we're going all in this next year's draft, or it's going to take a few years for us. But this year, you've got a lot of teams that are doing it. And so that's why it's become, I think, more of a red flag of what's going on in the NBA.
Yeah, and and I was doing some math earlier today. I was making some graphs and charts and things like that, looking at how often does the NBA have teams that are the cutoff line I used was basically a 25 win season, although I put it at 30% win percentage to try and account for there's some years where there's there's been shortened seasons for strikes, COVID, whatnot. So just basically under a 30 win percentage. And the rate has been relatively stable. It's spiked a couple of times. It's gone up and down. I also actually looked at another factor, which is how many teams have a sub 30% win percentage in the final 30 games of the season, i.e. teams that decide they want to tank and just throw it all away and try and get the best draft pick that they can. And it's gone up and down. It's spiked. Although, to be honest, it actually kind of went up after they implemented the lottery back in 1985. You've seen more bad teams toward the bottom after they implemented the lottery than before they had it in the merger. Mind you, the NBA was only around for like 15 years, at least the merger. I went from post-merger, so it was like 1976. So I guess it's actually more like 10 years.
Well, there's been expansion. There's more teams.
Yeah, but like I accounted for that with like it was the percentage of teams below below that 25 win threshold. So I was accounting for that as well. Like, cause you went from 22 teams at the merger to 30 now. So, but the percentage of teams has generally gone up, and I plotted out on those charts, like when some of the shifts in the lottery have happened, like when they, at first it was literally every non-playoff team gets an even chance, and they were playing around with it. Then in like I think the late 90s, they went to 25% chance for the worst team to get that number one overall pick. But then they flattened it out in 2019 to where it's a lot more even now. But the thing is, I don't think the lottery has fixed a dadgum thing with tanking. And to be honest, I think that the current system with the lottery has made tanking worse. Because you look at a team, if you are on the outside, or like right on the line for the play-in, and you don't necessarily see a route for you to become a championship team. You're not on the upswing, like the Spurs who, maybe, they're having a pretty good year last, but like you look at, teams that are on the up and up. Oklahoma City, they ramped up over the course of a few years. Yeah. If you're not on that trajectory, or look at the Jazz, what they're going to be like next year, they're going to be ramping up. So unless you're one of those teams that sees a good, near future, you have an incentive to just throw away the last 20 games of the season, because being the 8th seed and barely winning the play-in, and your reward is to get blitzed by the top team, get swept 4-0 or 4-1, or you can throw everything away and try and get like the 8 or 9 slot. And you look at the last, 5 or so years where the odds have been flattened, and look at how many teams in that range end up winning the lottery. Like the Mavericks were in there. I think Atlanta a couple years ago when they won the lottery, like they were teams that were like just outside the play-in. And so there is more incentive to tank outside of those bottom teams, because the bottom teams, they're kind of always going to tank. But the teams on the edge of the playoff, they have more incentive to tank than ever before. The lottery has literally made it worse. Like Adam Silver has done the exact reverse of what he was trying to do when he flattened the lottery odds.
Yeah, the unintended consequence.
Yeah, and if he had disincentivized some tanking, that might have been a worthy trade-off. But you have the same number of teams tanking at the bottom, plus fringe playoff teams that are tanking. And as I've outlined 12.5 times on this show, whining about it constantly, all you do with punishing teams by, with the Jazz and Wizards falling from 1-2 to 5-6 last year. If the Jazz get Cooper Flagg last year, they aren't tanking this year. You would have decreased the number of teams tanking. But now the Jazz are tanking again because you flattened the lottery odds and decided to punish them for being a bad team. Wizards the same. Like, would they be tanking this year if they had Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper? No, you gave Cooper Flagg to the Mavericks, a fringe playoff team who, because of their own dumb decisions, are tanking now anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But then the Spurs, they get Dylan Harper. Like, why are they being rewarded even after they tanked by sitting Victor Wembanyama for half the season?
Well, here's the thing with the Spurs. So one of the thoughts is there's been a variety of options that have been thrown out there, proposals of how to fix tanking. And I want to get the audience, we want you to weigh in on this. But looking at San Antonio specifically, they picked Victor Wembanyama first. Then the next draft, they get Stephen Castle at the fourth overall pick. And last year they got Dylan Harper with the second pick. Like they had a top 4 pick 3 drafts in a row. And this season, they're the number 2 team in the West. So successive tanking, successive high picks. It's no wonder they're one of the top teams in the West. So they have totally revamped their franchise in a few short years. I mean, they tanked for a while, But now look at where they're at now. Like, that's the system. Especially if you're in a smaller market team that's hard to draw in free agents, that's how you rebuild your roster and find a star. So it's a mess. And I get it. And there need to be some changes. I don't love what Utah's doing. It affects the fan base. Like, fans are frustrated. Like, this was only supposed to be a few years. Danny Ainge said, I'm too old to go through a total bottoming out and then rebuild and back up. Well, that's what they've done. This is the third year of tanking, and fans are really growing anxious about this. And it's starting to show. Like, they used to have this great streak of sellouts, and now they're starting to beg people to come back to the games. But you have to show them signs of hope. And the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade is a sign of hope. But Utah still has a few more months of not winning games. Part of the other problem, too, is this year, it's an historically deep draft class. It's not just one guy where everybody was trying to capture the flag. This year, there's 3 legitimate stars, franchise-changing players. But even in the top 10, there's great talent. So there's a lot of teams that are like, we're going to try to chase that. And I don't know what the NBA can do against that, because there's always going to be different years from year to year where there's a rich, deep draft class that a lot of teams are going to want to have their hands on it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, my thoughts are with the ability of one player to change so much. My thought is, like, why do you need a lottery at all? Like, you can have, you're always going to have teams that are at the bottom. You're never going to get away from that. Some teams are just going to suck. So let them go be terrible. And yes, some of them are going to deliberately try and lose. They're going to do all this stealth tanking and your moral tank, whatever you want to call it, and sit guys and, race to the bottom. But you know what? They're going to get to the bottom. They're going to get their star player. They're going to get their 1 or 2. And then you look at that kind of middle lottery, they're going to see the teams that are going all out, and they're like, we're not really going to catch them. And, and they don't have this, these odds that are going to get them all the way to the top. So, like, let the teams at the bottom get their star players. 1 year of a tank, you get your star player, you put your hopes behind him. Like, I don't see why there's this incredible need for a lottery. But, if there is, I think there are ways to go about it where you don't punish teams as much. I know that, again, the systems I've loved the most are the ones that incentivize winning in some form or fashion. Typically ones where it's like you reach a certain threshold of losses, like once you're eliminated from the playoffs or something, then draft order is determined by who has the most wins after
you're eliminated. Yeah. Or Dan Patrick has floated that idea, and I like that. Yeah,
because the thing is, it's something that
still makes the NBA watchable.
Yeah.
In its most important time of as it's ramping up to its postseason,
and everyone's rooting for their team to win late in the season.
Everybody should be rooting for their team to win.
And so the thing that the NBA has just not understood is that there is not a way in which you will disincentivize a team from tanking unless you take the most drastic, stupid measures possible. Like I've seen some people put out where they just say put the playoff teams, the non-playoff teams in like basically in or like where the teams that just missed the playoffs get the number 1 overall pick, and then you go in kind of that reverse order from the way it is right now. And it's like, well, that's a dumb idea and it's not going to work. And it's just straight up a punishment. You cannot punish teams, effectively enough that you're going to prevent tanking. What you need to do is find creative ways to incentivize winning by these teams instead of an incentive to lose. And despite the fact that so many people have presented that idea, as you mentioned Dan Patrick, and there are others before him that presented it, where these ideas of incentivizing bad teams to win after a certain stage and rewarding them with higher draft picks for winning, that's, and maybe you can say that they'll cheese the system and try and lose a ton early, but okay, but nobody really cares about the NBA in November, December anyway. If they're fighting for games in March and April, that's what we're looking for.
We got a lot of texts coming through on this. Love to continue to get them from you. How would you fix tanking in the NBA? Are you okay with what Utah is doing, or would you rather see them take the Sacramento approach? They'll face the Kings tonight, where they hold out half their team. And would you rather see a bunch of no-name two-way players and rookies, or would you like to see your stars play at least for a little bit? Or how would you fix tanking in the NBA? 435-339-0321. Keep this in mind too. I threw out a poll on Twitter. We'll get to some of those options. We'll hear it from yours as well. We've got something to give away. And keep this in mind. Let us know when you're sending in your recommendations.
We've got our own lottery going on here.
Yeah, to some degree. No cost to enter.
It's not a literal lottery. We got to stay within the bounds. We want to do a giveaway
here, though. We want to reward you. We've got a pair of tickets to go see Utah State take on Weber State in hockey. Great rivalry, historic rivalry. This is the last home game of the regular season for Utah State club hockey at the Eccles Ice Arena. And we've got a pair of tickets to give away today. And we will give it away to somebody on the text line who lets us know an option for how to fix tanking in the NBA. If you can't use the tickets, let us know when you send in the text. Otherwise, you'll be entered in to win a pair of tickets to this game on Friday night at 7 o'clock, Utah State versus Weber State in club hockey. We'll give a pair away. We'll announce that a little bit later on. But give it away to somebody who texts in with their recommendation of how to fix tanking in the NBA. 435-339-0321.
Hi friends, this is Lydia at The Sportsman on Main Street. At The Sportsman, we try really hard to find unique products. For women, this is our first season carrying Free People movement, and you will love it. We also have great fresh looks from Viore, Pendleton, Cool, and Birkenstock. For the men, you will love our new shirts, jackets, sweaters, and pants from Cool, Fjallraven, Viore, and Pendleton. From colognes and perfumes to skis, we've got you covered.
Welcome, friend, nice to see you again at The Sportsman.
In downtown Logan.
You're on your way to work when that little light pops on. The one that says, hey, you need service. But who has time to sit in a waiting room? West Motor Ford will pick up your vehicle from home or work, service it, and bring it right back. Pickup and delivery are completely free within a 35-mile radius. That's anywhere from Malad to Montpelier, Hiram to Tremonton. Plus, get $25 off any repair over $250. Schedule your free pickup and delivery at westmotorford.com or call 208-852-3853.
Hey, it's JD here, and with the new year comes that familiar feeling of wanting a fresh start. We all make resolutions, eat better, be healthier, do better, but for some, the resolution that matters most is getting sober. That's why I want to tell you about Renaissance Ranch. They specialize in a faith-based, clinically proven addiction recovery. They know what it takes to break free for good. Call or visit renaissanceranch.net and make this the year that addiction no longer controls your story. Renaissance Ranch, hope, healing, and recovery.
This Valentine's Day, give a piece of jewelry from S.E. Needham Jewelers. Save time and money by taking advantage of our Valentine's Day special. With the purchase of any jewelry valued at $199 or more, you'll receive dinner for two, chocolates and flowers. You can have Valentine's Day covered in one stop. Choose from a large selection of diamonds, pearls, gold, and silver jewelry. Also, your jewelry will come in our signature gift box. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
Need a great deal near USU? Mention Aggie 79 and score a room at the Baum Hotel for just $79. Enjoy charming, homey hospitality in downtown Logan. You'll love the clean, spacious rooms and friendly, attentive staff. Take advantage of free breakfast, free Wi-Fi, and a seasonal outdoor pool. At that price, it can't be beat. $79 rooms with Aggie 79 at the Baum Hotel. Value every day of the week. Call 435-752-5220. That's 752-5220.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Indoor air in our area can be up to 5 times dirtier than outdoor air, especially during the dry winter months. Dry air keeps dust and allergens floating longer and sending them deeper into your lungs and making sickness more likely. Mountain Valley Heating and Air installs high-efficiency steam humidifiers that use 1 gallon of water with no waste to improve air quality. Call 435-753-5170 for a free in-home air quality assessment from Mountain Valley Heating and Air. I can't guarantee whether or not they'll give you a hair assessment either. So we've got the text.
Call if you're bald.
Yeah, I've got the text line lining up. Again, you have a chance to win some free hockey tickets to see Utah State play Weber State. Big rivalry game upcoming on Friday. We're giving away a pair today. We're giving away a pair tomorrow. But today you can win a pair by texting in your idea to fix tanking in the NBA. 2212, kind of before this. Saying, I agree with the Jazz and what they're doing. They are not breaking any rules, technically. Not only are they trying to protect the top 8 pick, they're trying to not give OKC a decent first-round pick who is going to be their their competition for next several years. This is an NBA problem, having protected picks. And I kind of agree with that with the protected picks, where everyone's basically chicken to actually trade their picks around. So it's like, top 8 protected, top 4 protected. Because if they get into a bind where they don't want to give away that pick, then they just throw everything out, and tank to the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where they're at there. 2212 also saying if they keep the lottery, just make it so if you have a top 5 pick one year, you're not eligible for a top 5 pick the following year. And I think one of our other texters had something very similar. Can't see it at the moment, but I'm sure we'll get to it. But we've had another suggestion kind of similar to that. 1181 saying Jazz should give middle finger to all the talking heads on ESPN by making up injuries for all but 6 bench players in the injury report for one game and ask if they're satisfied now.
That's basically what Indiana is doing tonight.
Yeah. Like the Jazz really should just like have their entire roster on the injury report. And then, see if the ESPN talking heads like that. I love that idea from 1181. Just do it for one game.
For one game.
It's about making a statement.
Yeah.
It's 9310 actually here says no. Oh, this is one where it was similar. No repeat top 6 picks year to year. If you get number 3 pick one year, the best you can get is number 7 next year. Makes multi-draft pick rebuilds more painful. Get your one valuable draft pick and move on. Yeah,
it's like what happened with the Spurs, right? 3 successive years, they got a first pick, 4th pick, and 2nd pick.
Yeah. And it got to help.
If the NBA adjusted that and made it so that you couldn't pick a top 3 or 4 in successive years, or even top 5, then you remove the incentive for racing to the bottom year after year after year. Yeah, because if you don't get that first pick, then you're just going to likely do it one more time. Yeah. So that's what we're seeing right now with the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, it's what the lottery does. Is it creates repeat offenders in tanking. If you say you're going to get your one. Again, top, again, wherever you want to draw that line, top 3, top 6, again, wherever you want to draw that, just remove the lottery and say, you can't have a top 8 pick in back-to-back years, and just remove the lottery. So you might get, some teams that race to the bottom, but that's 8 teams that suddenly can't race to the bottom a second year in a row, and, pretty quickly, or maybe even have it be like a multi-year thing where if you get a top something pick, then for like 2 years, the first year after you can't have top 4, or the immediate year you can't have like top 8, and then the year after that, like you lowered like top 4 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
you can get
staggered.
You can get decently creative with this, but again, my thought is just incentivize teams to win, because that's the problem with tanking that we have. Isn't so much that like teams are wanting to lose a lot of games. It's that you get late into the season. There are contending teams who are playing tanking teams playing each other, and you have fans rooting for their team to lose. And the best way to eliminate that is, again, the pros of like once you're eliminated from the playoffs, then every win after that point, whoever has the most wins after they're eliminated, they, do the draft order in that way. Because
improves your odds.
Yeah, because then you're rooting for your team to win, as opposed to rooting for them to lose. And that's the number one problem with tanking, is rooting for your team to lose. And sure, there's still a way to cheese that by, eliminating yourself from playoff contention as early as possible. But that's to where, I think a couple of our texters have said, like, you can't get rid of tanking. Well, 8632 actually saying that. We'll get to the text in a second here fully, but like you can't get rid of tanking entirely. There is no system that will get rid of tanking entirely outside of just having a full lottery for all 30 teams or some nonsense like that. Kevin O'Connor put out something that was basically
it's lottery wheel.
Yeah, it's lottery, which is it's a whole complicated mess of crap that basically amounts to, in more complicated terms, every team has the same odds, or it's really, your odds increase and decrease arbitrarily year to year.
Yeah,
but
year
essentially,
to year.
it's just every team has the same odds, or predetermined odds for every single season, and that's not how it. If you're going to do that, just don't have a draft at all. Like, just eliminate the draft and just do it the way European soccer does, where you just sign players, have academies, all that, and just go with that. Which they've made that work sometimes. Maybe it could work in the NBA. That's another idea that I've seen some people talk about, is just get rid of the draft in general, which if you can make it work, that'd be nice, but there's some potential problems with that. So, but to me, really, it's the problem is rooting for your team to lose. Find the solution that will eliminate that aspect, and there is a solution that you can come up with that wouldn't be that hard to implement. But yeah, it's the NBA just doesn't seem to want to be creative. Adam Silver just wants to keep flattening the lottery odds.
8632, as you said, just to flesh it out, you can never fully get rid of tanking, but you can shorten the length that teams tank by simply implementing a reverse standings draft similar to the NFL.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've talked about, where it's like, just get rid of the lottery and just let the teams race to the bottom, let them get their star player, and then, because like I said over and over, if the Jazz have Cooper Flagg, they're not doing this year. They're not tanking this year. All the lottery does is extend the time that you're tanking. Again, just 8632 is kind of outlining there.
2212, if they keep the lottery, just make it so you have a top 5 pick one year, not eligible for a top 5 pick the following year. And the other point too that was mentioned, not having protected picks. And that's part of the problem. Like Utah, if it wasn't a top 8 protected, then they've got their own pick.
Or if they were giving it away to Oklahoma City anyway.
Right.
Like if they had no choice, they were just giving it to them.
Your incentive to make a trade, would you give away a first-round draft pick if it didn't have protections on it? Like, you find other ways to make that trade, or you just live with the consequences of giving that pick away. Like the remove protection status on a pick. I think that's part of the issue too. Like, then that reevaluates the value that you have with your team if you're making trades. You find other ways, cash considerations, second round guys, draft rights to European players. I don't know.
Problem is that would just end up decreasing the number of trades, because having these pick protections facilitates trades by allowing teams to kind of hedge their bets. But again, it's hedging their bets by always having in the back of their minds, oh yeah, I can tank. Like, we can always tank to avoid giving away a pick.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's the thing you don't want to have.
8968 texting it. I would never pay to watch a team I'm rooting for tank.
Yeah, I'm not paying to watch the Jazz. Like, I've got the satellite. I guess technically paid some because we bought a satellite so we can watch them. But it's like, yeah, you don't want to watch the team. And again, this is like I said this the other day. Where like, whenever I watch the Jazz, like this season, where I'm wanting them to tank, wanting them to lose games, when I'm watching them on TV or whether I'm at the game, I'm rooting for them to win. I'm cheering when they make a shot. I'm upset when the other team goes on a run. I want the team to perform well when I'm watching. Like, if it's in the abstract, I'm not watching the game that night, and I look at the score and I'm like, yeah, I guess, I lost my train of thought. My phone started ringing. Like, yeah, in the abstract, where I'm not watching the game and I see the score on my phone, it's like, oh yeah, they lost. Good. But like, that's when I'm removed from the team and not like actively, following them that day. But yeah,
I've watched fewer Jazz games this season in a very long time.
Yeah, but even when you're watching, like, you root for the team, even though you want the team to lose because you want them to keep that pick or get the highest possible pick. Like this happened last year. I went to a few games and like I was rooting for the team to win, even though it was like I want them to lose because I wanted them to get that top overall pick and get Cooper Flagg. But So that's why, like, you have this. That's where tanking is so toxic. It's not that teams are just kind of trying to lose in this abstract sense. It's that the fans and the organization want their team to lose. Whereas, like, you look at the players, they're basically working against their own fans. The players who don't want to lose, the coaches and all the staff who don't want to lose, their fans don't want them to do their job properly. So to remove the stain of tanking, you need to incentivize teams to win, not disincentivize them to lose. As we've said, like, there's no system you can come up with short of just removing the draft or doing some, again, 1 to 30 lottery. There's no way to completely eliminate tanking.
5860 with the recommendation: bottom 8 teams play in a mini tournament to determine draft order.
Yeah,
you're right. That may be a little bit more logistically challenging.
Well, I think the problem is like, again, like, you have 8 teams that tank the entire season, or I guess maybe they wouldn't tank the entire season if it came down to a mini tournament.
Well, what 2603 similar. The fixed tanking in the NBA propose a single elimination tourney between the teams that are not in the playoffs, but worse teams host. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, come up with gimmicks.
Yeah, but it gets to the point
you want to create incentives to win. The NBA needs to create incentives for people to tune in.
Yeah, and I think that's where that idea, this mini tournament, has its benefits, where you are incentivizing teams to win through a mini tournament. It's just not my favorite idea, and it does feel, I don't know if it's any more gimmicky than the.
But that would be over a few days.
Yeah,
and you really want to try to create more interest in watching the NBA over months, not over just a few days.
Yeah, like, imagine rooting for your terrible team instead of rooting for them to lose post All-Star break, or heck, for basically the entire season. Like, imagine a situation where maybe you're wanting your team to lose early to try and get eliminated from the playoffs, but like, once they reach that point, rooting for your team from February to April, rooting as hard as possible for them to win, like the excitement that would create. Sure, your team isn't good, and sure, there's some frustrations with not having a good team, but having your team push as hard as you can, not rooting against your own coaches, not rooting against your own players, being mad at watching a game winner. Imagine reversing all of that and actually getting to be a fan. And again, there's a system where that would happen, where you allow teams to win games to improve their lottery odds or just improve their draft order in general. But instead, we've just stubbornly stuck around with this lottery idea that at this point is proven to not address or fix tanking at all, and in reality, literally makes it worse.
Yeah, there are more teams now than normal racing to the bottom to try to improve their draft odds.
Yeah, and the lottery enables them.
Yeah, so I threw this out there earlier in the day on X, on Twitter. Just a poll. How would you fix tanking in the NBA? And it only gives you 4 options. So I threw this together quickly. And the 4 options I put out there: abolish the draft lottery, remove pick protections, tankers lose picks, or no successive top picks, which is one that's been floated here on the show. And right now, that's the leading vote getter. Again, only about 22 votes, 45% going on no successive top picks. So you can't pull what the Spurs just did. In 3 successive years, they got a top 4 pick in each of 3 successive NBA drafts. But again, if you want to weigh in your thoughts about how to address or fix tanking in the NBA, let us know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, and we'll enter you in to win a pair of tickets to go see Utah State take on Weber State in men's club hockey Friday night at 7 at the Eccles Ice Arena. Big rivalry between these two teams. It's always fun and exciting. You go watch a fight and a hockey game will break out. That's usually what happens when Utah State and Weber State face each other in hockey. But let us know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line your ideas of how to address tanking in the NBA. If you can't use the tickets, let us know in the text. Otherwise, you'll be entered in to win. I would love to see these get used. Love to see some fans, rowdy fans, cheer on Utah State hockey on Friday night. Got to take a quick time out. When we come back, the latest on what's going on in the Pac-12. There seems to be more momentum to this idea. They'll reveal it later tonight, but we pretty much know the details of what the 2026 football scheduling model will look like for Utah State and the rest of the Pac-12. We'll discuss next on the Full Court Press.
What do Valentine's Day and Jarek's have in common? They're both all about the romance. Jarek's Fine Jewelry has a great selection for your sweetheart. Don't sweat it out worrying about where to get the perfect gift. We've recently added a 3D laser engraver. Now through Valentine's, Jarek's will personalize any jewelry purchase for no additional charge. We can engrave a wedding date, a name, or any message on most jewelry, like a pendant, watch, bracelet, the inside or outside of a ring. This Valentine's, let us help personalize your gift and make it special. Make it Jarek's.
If you live in Box Elder County, help for ear, nose, and throat issues just got a whole lot closer. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat is now open in their new Brigham City location. With over 75 years of combined provider experience, Dr. Jackson Deere is ready to care for allergies, asthma, sinus problems, hearing loss, and more. Finally, Cache Valley ENT in the Brigham City community at 990 South Medical Drive next to the Brigham City Hospital. Call 753-7880 to schedule or visit CacheValleyENT.com. Cache Valley ENT, trusted care now in Brigham City.
Winter's here and that old car sitting in the driveway isn't getting any warmer. Turn that frozen junker into cold hard cash with DD Auto and Salvage in Logan. It's never too cold, too wet, or too late to clean up and cash out. DD Auto and Salvage makes it quick and easy. They'll even pick it up for you. Get the most money possible for junk vehicles or scrap metal. Clear it out. Get the cash today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204. And let DD Auto and Salvage pay you today. DD Auto and Salvage. Cold cars turned into hot cash.
Over the past few years, strong and crazy weather patterns have battered various parts of the country. Northern Utah and southern Idaho are not immune from its share of wild weather. Be prepared for power outages with a Generac backup generator from Golden Spike Electric. They are your local source for Generac sales and service. Generac keeps you in control when bad weather strikes. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Cache Valley's largest and most complete power sports service shop is now open at Young Power Sports Logan. It serves all brands, all makes, all sizes, motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs, and more. No guesswork, no shortcuts. Just trained technicians who fix it right the first time. That's Young Power Sports Logan and their service department. You can call them ahead and get your service scheduled at 755-7111. That's 755-7111. And talking about tanking in the NBA, before we shift topics and get into the Pac-12, if you've got a fix for how to address tanking in the NBA, text us. Let us know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, and you'll get entered in to win 2 tickets to go see Utah State Club Hockey take on Weber State on Friday. And again, 435-339-0321 to text in. Your thoughts on how to address that. 2235 texting in. Here is ChatGPT's fix. So we're going to AI to try to fix the problem. NBA tanking fix. Keep the lottery, but tie draft odds to wins after elimination. Once the team is officially out, every win boosts their lottery points or odds, and losing does nothing. Then flatten the base odds so worst record is not rewarded. Teams would have to compete instead of tanking, and fans get real basketball down the stretch. Yeah, and I like this proposal. I mean, that's maybe a little bit more detail. The one that Dan Patrick has floated and now others, and one that I like, and the one we've been talking about here, create incentives to win. Create incentives for interesting basketball. Create incentives for fans to want to still attend games or watch them on television. And that, I think, has to be the best option for it. May be a little bit murky in November, December, and January, and parts of February, but at least it makes March and April a lot more interesting for teams and for fans watching what's going on in the NBA. So tonight, Utah Jazz do take on the Sacramento Kings. We will not have that game here on The Fan. It'll be Jaren Jackson Jr.'s introduction to the Salt Lake City market in the Delta Center, wearing a Jazz jersey. We're not going to carry that game because we got high school hoops that we're going to be carrying tonight. We got a couple different games on the high school schedule this evening. Girls basketball, their opening round is tonight. We had some boys basketball games last night, but we've got Skyview girls in action this evening. So stay tuned for that a little bit later on this evening. But wanted to shift gears a little bit, though you can still text in and let us know your ideas about how to fix tanking if you want to enter to win those tickets to Utah State Club Hockey on Friday night. But wanted to talk about the Pac-12. They're supposed to announce later this evening, shortly after we get off the air, what their scheduling program will look like for this upcoming football season. Actually, it'll be about 7:30 Mountain Time. But the proposal is, well, the problem is there are 8 football playing schools. So you have 7 conference games. Normally, you play 12 football games. So are you going to have 5 non-conference games? Or what do you do with that extra game that extra week? And so one idea was you just automatically schedule a home and home with some other team in conference play, but it doesn't count towards your conference record. Another option was you just go find that 5th non-conference game on your own, but there's costs associated with that and logistics and other challenges, especially with P4 conferences, making it less and less likely or less easy to schedule games with them. So the other option was floated that you have a flex week. You go through the regular season, and then near the end of the schedule, it's open, and the conference will look at how do we get the best teams to face each other, or middle teams to face each other, or bad teams to improve their own standings as well. Ultimately, how do we improve our chances of getting a team into the college football playoff and have that last week, an open week that they can flex and say, these are the top teams currently, the way that the schedule is looking. How do they stack up against other teams in the group of 6? How do we best position our top team to get that spot in the college football playoff? And Jason, it appears that's the direction that this is headed.
Yeah, and there's some nuances with this that I'm maybe a little worried about. I think ultimately it's not a bad idea. But the one thing I'm going to bring up is one of the potential pitfalls that some may not be thinking about. I think that they, in coming up with this, I think they definitely would have considered this, but there are reasons that you would override this concern. Like I said, I think ultimately it's a gimmicky option, but it's one that they can make work, and it's a temporary option. But the flex week, again, based off the reporting from John Wilner, is that final week won't count against the standings or toward the standings, I guess, in one way. So, what's going to happen if, or really when, because it seems like a very likely scenario, you get to the end of the regular season, everyone's played each other, and then you play a flex week, but then somebody loses or somebody, and somebody else wins, and there's this what if these games count toward the schedule, that would change who appears in the Pac-12 championship game. And that's going to be a narrative that may end up popping up. Like, there are teams that will say, hey, look, we played you all the way back in week 4. We're better now. We should be able to get into the title game over you because we're better now, or this or that and the other. And there is a potential for some really toxic rhetoric to end up being thrown around between fans, maybe even between media. It may even end up on this rail. Imagine if the Aggies were behind San Diego State loses, the Aggies win, and it's well, if that game counted and the Aggies would get into the championship game, that's going to be a bunch of unhappy Aggie fans, and it'll come over our airwaves and text line.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's something that has a potential to be really unsettling and destabilizing for the conference and for the talk that goes around the conference, the social media buzz and all that. And you don't really want to create that. And I think that is a big reason why this kind of has to be temporary. Why, and again, there are reasons why you wouldn't count it against the standings. Can't really go into them all. I'd imagine they went over this as a potential downside and considered not doing it for these reasons. But the fact they're going to likely go with this means it is a downside that they're going to have to live with. And I'm just going to warn you guys now, this is something that very likely could happen this next season.
Yeah, and the other thing that's kind of funky about this, and I know, Jason, you got to run, but it looks like what they're planning to do is this week 13 is there will be 4 predetermined home teams and 4 predetermined road teams. It's just you don't know who your opponent's going to be. Like, you'll know you're going to be on the road, but like you could be the better team and have to go on the road to somebody who's not, or to another team that's just below you, but they're going to have the advantage of having being the predetermined home team.
Yeah.
So it's still got some flaws, but logistically,
but
you still have to like let your teams know to plan that week. You need to make sure that you have a block of rooms reserved at your local hotel because you're going to host a team. You just don't know which team it will be.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I like. I don't see that as a flaw. I see that as, them understanding the real nuances of the logistics and specifically accounting for that. And that's a sign of leadership where that's not something that you or I think of very often. The logistics behind having to do a sudden road trip or suddenly hosting a team, like that is conference leaders who know what they're doing and they're going out and planning something and specifically putting in place. There may be some awkwardness about it, as you detailed. Maybe you're the top team, but you're a predetermined road team and that makes your game harder. But like, this is a logistical thing that you kind of have to put in place to make this not be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah. And the only other thing we don't know is how late in the season can they determine this? Like if you're who you're going to face, because they want to wait. They're trying to game the college football playoff and their ranking shows that come out once a week. They want to try to game that the best they can while still giving teams time to get those logistics figured out.
Yeah.
All right, we've got to take a timeout. We got to say goodbye to Jason. He's going to sneak away to go call a Skyview girls basketball game as they're in the playoffs taking on Crimson Cliffs, which will be here on The Fan, also video streaming on Cache Valley Daily later this evening. Quick timeout, and we'll run through what's going on that high school schedule next on the Full Court Press.
Retirement. Are you ready? Adams Wealth Advisors specializes in preparing you for a secure retirement. There's no reason to feel frustrated. The team at Adams Wealth will create a personalized plan that includes timing of retirement, reliable income sources, Social Security, estate planning, and more. Adams Wealth Advisors has a team of CPA, certified financial planners, Social Security experts to help you plan and retire with confidence. Call today, 752-1702, or visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com. Your dream retirement starts here.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the 5th year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Snow and black ice are here to stay for a while. If your tires aren't ready, neither is your vehicle. At Express Auto and Tire, they work with all vehicles and all tire sizes, making winter traction and safety their top priority. Name brand tires are always less at Express Tire. As a Point S tire location, you're backed by a nationwide warranty. Get winter ready with no appointment needed. 3200 North Main.
Express Tire, tires for less.
Where tires and service come together.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. This Valentine's Day, spend more time with your significant other in bed. Have romance, watch movies, sleep close. Do it on a brand new mattress from My Mattress and save money during our Valentine's Day sale. Oh, and get tickets to Lionheart Hall's Curtains and Cuisine Dinner Theater. It's the week of Valentine's Day for date night. Go to the dinner and show, have a nice mattress waiting for you when you get home for Valentine's Day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Again, if you want to be entered in to win a couple of tickets to go see Utah State Club Hockey, you take on Weber State Friday night in Logan, North Logan, at the Eccles Ice Center. Let us know your thoughts on how to address tanking in the NBA. 435-339-0321. That's the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. If you want to weigh in on that, but you can't use the tickets, let us know. Otherwise, you'll be entered to win. Got a number of phone numbers in there from people who have weighed in on that in the last few minutes of the show. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about high school basketball. We're going to shift from the NBA to high school hoops for a minute. The boys basketball 4A first round took place last night. Had a number of teams, Region 11 rematches going on, and games, well, they really weren't that close. The home teams prevailed, kind of running away with it. Number 12, Ridgeline, hosting number 21, Bear River. Ridgeline won both of their games against the Bears. One of those games that was really close, but game last night in the playoffs, not that close. Ridgeline wins that one 78-62. So they move on, and they will play at number 5 Dixie on Friday night at 7 o'clock. So they're heading to Southern Utah to take on number 5 Dixie. The other game involving Region 11 last night, number 15 Green Canyon versus number 18 Mountain Crest. Two teams split their regular season. But last night, it was Green Canyon in full control, winning that one. Almost a very similar score, almost a carbon copy of what happened with Ridgeline and Bear River. It was Green Canyon 78, Mountain Crest 63. So a very similar score between those two. So Green Canyon, they'll move on, and their reward is to take on number 2 Pineview. Again, they'll also be making the trip south to take on Pineview Friday at 7 o'clock. And we're working on getting those games covered with our friends down in Southern Utah. So watch for those details on Cache Valley Daily. One game we know for sure that we'll have is on Friday. That's in Smithfield, where Skyview is taking on Snow Canyon. Snow Canyon beat Cedar last night. Close matchup between number 9 Snow Canyon and number 24 Cedar, as Snow Canyon got that win 69-64. So the Warriors are making the trip north to take on the Bobcats. We'll have that here on The Fan on Friday with Hurricane John Newbold on the call. And tonight in girls basketball, we're carrying a number of those games following what's going on with our local high school teams. We've got, as we've mentioned before, here on The Fan, number 14 Skyview taking on number 19 Crimson Cliffs. Jason Walker actually will be on the call. He's on his way there now to get set up here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, and video streaming on CacheValleyDaily.com. Crimson Cliffs is number 19 in the standings. Green Canyon, Ridgeline, and Mountain Crest all have first-round byes, so they're waiting to see what happens in those other games going on tonight. They'll play on Saturday afternoon. But we do have one other game that we're going to be covering tonight. Full play-by-play of number 20 Bear River at number 13 Judge Memorial. That'll be on 104.9 The Ranch in Box Elder County, and video streaming on Cache Valley Daily. So see how the Bears can do. Try to go into enemy territory and sneak a win on the road if they can. And pregame at about 6:50 on that one. Tip-off scheduled for 7 o'clock at Judge Memorial. Chad Saunders and Ron Weaver on the call for us in that game. So ways to follow these games and to cheer on our local teams. Of course, we have replays of those, archives of those games that we are covering, and working on getting broadcasts of other games in other remote areas not close to here for Friday and Saturday. So stay tuned for that on our family of radio stations and CacheValleyDaily.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and appreciate all the texts that came in. Got a quick text from 8739. It'd be nice if all the ticket holders just didn't show up and there was only an empty Delta Center. Would that be interesting? A show of force for anti-tanking, how fans view that. But NBA certainly got a problem that they've got to fix. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back at it again more tomorrow with details of this Pac-12 scheduling program.
Sports Talk Radio, KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.